Hey, the one who got called dramatic, crazy, obsessive, doing too much. Come closer in your head for a second, because this is for you, and only you. You remember how they looked at you, right? That little smirk, the eye rolls, the relax, it's not that deep, the you're overthinking, the why are you making problems out of nothing. They wanted you to doubt your own eyes, your own gut, your own reality. You saw patterns, you saw inconsistencies, you connected dots they were praying you'd ignore. And when you spoke up, oh, they turned the whole room on you. You were negative, you were paranoid, you were too sensitive. You weren't a person anymore. You were a problem to be managed, controlled, softened, silenced. But here's the thing they never saw coming. You were right, the whole time. The truth aged like evidence, not like wine. It didn't get prettier, it got undeniable. And now, look at them. Suddenly they're quiet. They're avoiding eye contact. They're changing the subject. They're rewriting history in their heads like, yeah, I kinda had a feeling too. No, they didn't. You had the feeling. You took the risk. You opened your mouth when it cost something. They're only brave now that it's safe. Let's really sit in this for a second because I want you to feel it. You weren't too much. You were too early. You weren't crazy. You were clear. You weren't obsessed. You were observant. You saw what they were desperate to hide, not just from you, but from themselves. You noticed the small lies, the micro shifts, the late replies that suddenly had perfect excuses. You noticed the jokes that weren't really jokes, the missing pieces in stories that didn't quite add up. And you did something dangerous in this world. You spoke truth out loud. Look at what they did in response. They didn't just disagree. They attacked your entire identity. They didn't say, I don't see it. They said, you're crazy. They didn't say, that doesn't match my view. They said, you're insecure. They didn't say, I don't believe that. They said, you are the issue. That's not disagreement. That's defense. That's fear. That's somebody feeling cornered by reality and trying to shove you in front of the train instead. And now the train has arrived. The messages came out. The truth surfaced. The mask slipped. The story cracked. The facade collapsed. Screenshots, receipts, other people finally saying, yeah, actually, something felt off. And suddenly you're not crazy anymore. You're, what's the word they're using now? Right. Valid. Real. Now they're quiet. Now they're going through a lot. Now they're doing their best. Now they're working on themselves. Now they're wearing the shame they tried to throw on you like a heavy wet coat they can't take off. Let me say this in the clearest way possible. Their silence right now is a confession. They might never say, you were right, and I knew it, and I treated you like trash because I was scared you'd expose everything. But that's exactly what their behavior is screaming. They can't joke around you like before. They can't talk down to you anymore. They can't dismiss you with the same confidence, because deep down, they know you saw behind the curtain, and nothing they say now will change what actually happened. And I know it's not just satisfaction you feel. It's this messy cocktail, a bit of vindication, a bit of rage, a bit of grief for the version of you that almost believed them, a bit of sadness for the time you wasted trying to prove reality to people who were committed to denying it. You weren't just fighting them, you were fighting your own doubt. How can I be this sure, and everyone keeps telling me I'm wrong? Am I broken? Why do I always feel things no one else seems to see? You almost turned on yourself. And that's the part that makes me want you to sit up a little straighter right now. Because that part, that version of you, deserves an apology from you. Listen carefully. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not overreacting. You are the only one in the room with the courage to say, "This doesn't feel right." That's not a flaw. That's not a glitch. That's a superpower in a world built on pretending. They punished you for it. The world often does. People like you, the ones who feel deeply, see patterns, and can't swallow lies quietly. You are dangerous to people who live on performance and perception. So they do what cowards always do. They try to make the truth teller look insane, so they can keep their comfortable little fantasy world intact. Now let's flip the script, because right now, whether you realize it or not, you're holding a kind of power you've never fully stepped into. You've got the proof, you've got the memory, you've got the resilience that came from being set on fire, and somehow walking out still standing. But power is nothing if you still think like a victim. So yeah, they're silent, cornered, ashamed. Good. Let them sit in it. But this isn't about them anymore. This is about what you do with this moment. Option 1. You could waste this chapter replaying every scenario in your head, imagining confrontations, acting out arguments in the shower, writing essays they'll never read, scripting apologies they'll never give you. You could let your mind turn into a courtroom where you keep rerunning the trial you already won. Or, option 2, you accept the verdict. You accept that you were right. You accept that they know you were right, and you walk out of the courtroom. No final speech, no grand performance, no "I told you so" tour. Just a quiet, dangerous Joker-level smile like, "Oh, you see it now. Keep it." You know what's really unsettling to people who wronged you? Not you yelling, not you begging, not you trying to prove your point for the 100th time. What shakes them to their core is you calmly moving on like their opinion is now irrelevant data. Because here's the twist. When you stop trying to convince them, they're left alone with their own conscience. No distraction, no villain to blame, no crazy person to point at. Just them, their choices, their lies, their behavior. And trust me, people like that do not like being left alone with themselves. You think they're quiet because they don't care? No. They're quiet because they know if they open their mouth, even a little, the truth might pour out. They're quiet because if they look at you too long, the guilt starts to itch. They're quiet because every time your name comes up, they feel that flash of, "Damn, I really did them dirty." And instead of owning it, they retreat, they avoid, they distance. That's not strength. That's not power. That's cowardice, dressed as calm. Meanwhile, you survived being painted as the villain in a story where you were the only person telling the truth. Do you have any idea how tough that makes you? You had whole groups, whole rooms, maybe even family, siding against you because it was easier to believe you were unstable than to accept that their golden person, their favorite, their could never do that, absolutely did. You carried that weight. You cried over it. You doubted yourself some nights. You considered shrinking just so you wouldn't feel that pressure. But somewhere in you, the part of you that refuses to gaslight yourself, said quietly, "No, I know what I saw. I know what I felt. I know what happened." That voice, that's your spine. That's your legend. So here's the real empowerment part, and I need you to let it hit. From now on, you treat your intuition like evidence. not like a suggestion. You don't downplay it just because others aren't ready to handle the truth yet. If something feels off, you listen. If their words and their actions don't line up, you believe the actions. If your body tenses up around certain people, you don't shame yourself for it. You thank yourself for the warning. You don't need a group vote to validate what you already know. Your nervous system clocked things before your mind could form sentences. That is not paranoia. That is pattern recognition soaked in survival. And about them, the ones who are silent now, the ones who are cornered in their own guilt, the ones who are low-key embarrassed every time they remember how they treated you. You don't chase apologies. You don't beg for explanations. You don't accept half-hearted, "My bad, I was going through a lot." Because no, they weren't just going through a lot. They were willing to throw you under the bus to keep from facing themselves. That's not a rough phase. That's a character trait. And you? You don't reconcile with someone's shame version of an apology just because you're tired of feeling tension. You let them feel the tension. They earned it. Now let's talk about something a bit darker. Because you like that edge, don't you? Revenge. You don't get revenge by humiliating them back. You don't get revenge by becoming as cruel as they were. That's not power. That's just you letting them drag you down to the same emotional basement they're stuck in. Real revenge. You become undeniable. You stop performing small version you to keep other people comfortable. You stop shrinking your insight, your vision, your strength, just because it makes them nervous. You build, you evolve, you get sharper, you get wiser. You let the lessons sit in your bones so deep that no one ever gets to run the same game on you again. You become the person they hoped you'd never be. Confident, self-trusting, unbothered by their silence because you finally understand. Their silence isn't your punishment, it's their prison. You know what's really wild? There will come a day when your name is mentioned in a room you're not in, and the same people who gaslit you will have to admit, even if it's just with a quiet nod. Yeah, they were right. And they'll feel that sting, that heat in their chest, that uncomfortable twist in their stomach. That's the echo of every moment they shut you down, every time they laughed at your concerns, every time they made you doubt yourself for sport. That echo doesn't belong to you. It belongs to them. Let them keep it. You walk differently now. You've seen what happens when you ignore your own reality. You've seen what happens when you trust it. You've seen who's capable of turning on you to protect a lie. You've seen who stands nowhere in the middle. You no longer need everyone to understand. You just need you to be solid with you. So the next time your mind says something's off, you don't shut it down with, maybe I'm just overthinking again. No. Now you say, last time I ignored this, I got burned. This time, I listen. That's growth. That's power. That's you becoming the version of yourself that scares the old you and everyone who benefited from that old version. Let them be silent. Let them be cornered by the reality they tried to escape. Let them sit in their shame without you rushing in to comfort them for the damage they caused. You are not their rehab. You are not their cover story. You are not their emotional janitor, cleaning up the mess they made and then apologizing for the smell. You are the one who saw clearly. You are the one who spoke when it cost you everything. You are the one who walked through the fire of being misunderstood and came out with your mind intact. So from here on out, you don't dim that light. You don't second-guess that voice. You don't apologize for seeing exactly what's in front of you. They called you crazy. Reality called you correct. You already know which one matters. That awareness changes how you move through every room you walk into from here on out, whether you admit it to yourself or not. You're sitting there, listening, and a part of you is already different. That part that got dragged through doubt, roasted in group chats, side-eyed at family dinners, laughed off at work or school when you said, "Something's off here." That part isn't naive anymore. That part is loaded. You don't hear words the same. You don't look at people the same. You don't swallow vibes just to keep the peace. You've been through your personal, everybody thinks I'm crazy arc, and walked out with receipts. That does something irreversible to a person. You know what I'm talking about. You start to recognize the patterns quicker. The performed innocence, the fake shocked face, the ultra-defensive, "Why would I ever do that?" You start to clock the people who over-explain and under-deliver. You start to see who never actually answers your question. They just spin you in circles until you're dizzy enough to give up. That used to work on you. Not anymore. You're the one in the room whose brain goes, "I've seen this movie. I know how it ends." Other people are eating popcorn. You're sitting there recognizing every scene beat by beat, thinking, "Yeah, this character's lying. This one's in denial. This one's just dumb. This one's dangerous." And here's the wild thing. You're not even mad the same way anymore. Anger used to consume you. You'd lie awake, replaying arguments, crafting explanations, trying to figure out the exact combo of words that would finally make them go, "Oh, I get it. I'm wrong. You're right." That version of you thought clarity would save the relationship. This version of you understands something darker and cleaner. Some people heard you. They understood you. They just didn't care enough to stop what they were doing. And that realization hits harder than any insult they ever threw at you. You stood there, heart racing, trying to explain your hurt, your confusion, your concern. They looked you dead in the face and chose their comfort over your sanity. You weren't misunderstood. You were ignored on purpose. Once that truth lands, something cracks open in you. You stop begging. You stop pleading. You stop performing emotional PowerPoint presentations for people committed to playing dumb. You start acting like what you feel matters, even if nobody claps for it. That's where your power actually begins. You walk into the same types of situations now, and that inner voice doesn't whisper anymore. It speaks, clear, direct, sharp. You've seen this before. You know exactly what's happening. You're not arguing with your own eyes this time. You used to override that voice because everyone around you sounded so confident. They'd hit you with that calm, patronizing tone like, "I think you're overanalyzing. You just need to relax." They weren't relaxed. They were invested. They needed you to stop digging because the truth was buried under everything they were trying to protect. They called it love. They called it loyalty. They called it trying to help you not spiral. It was never that. It was self-preservation disguised as concern. The fact that you survived that kind of psychological gymnastics and still respect your own mind. That's not regular. That's not average. You're dangerous to the right people and precious to the rare ones who can handle real honesty. The next time you feel that lump in your throat before you speak, that nervous tremor that says, "If I say this, they might turn on me again," you already know what that is. That's memory. That's your body remembering what it feels like to get burned alive in a room for saying, "I don't buy this." You breathe through it. You don't silence it. You don't shrink to fit the narrative. You speak anyway, not because you enjoy conflict, but because you refuse to betray yourself again just for the illusion of harmony. Because that's what you were doing before, right? You were abandoning yourself in real time just to keep things normal. You'd swallow questions, swallow doubts, swallow suspicions, smile through it. And behind that smile was a storm, a mind screaming, "Something is wrong here," while your mouth said, "It's fine, I'm fine, everything's fine." You were not fine. You were bleeding in silence. The people who truly loved you saw something was off, but maybe didn't know what to name it. The people who benefited from your confusion saw the same thing and thought, "Perfect. They'll never leave." You grew out of that role. You ripped yourself out of that script, piece by piece. You pissed people off by doing that. Good. You weren't born to be anyone's scapegoat, emotional crutch, or reality filter. And yeah, your mind still loops back sometimes, wondering, did I overreact? Was I too harsh? Look at what eventually surfaced. Look at what came out. Look at how even the ones who defended the lies at first got real quiet when the truth finally walked in the room. That isn't coincidence. That's pattern. You saw it early. You said it early. They're sitting with that fact, whether they admit it or not. Some of them still pretend they don't remember. Selective amnesia. Did I really say that? I don't think that's how it went. They remember. They just don't want to stand next to the version of themselves that did those things. You do not exist anymore to help them feel better about the past they created. You've got bigger things to build than their comfort. The real shift happens when you reframe what happened to you as training. Painful, unfair, brutal training. The kind that didn't ask for your consent, didn't give you a syllabus, didn't tell you when the course would end. Yet you graduated anyway. You learned to spot manipulation in the tone, not just the text. You learn to recognize when someone's apologizing for your reaction instead of their action. You learned that, "I'm sorry you feel that way," is not an apology. It's a dodge. You learned that anyone who needs you to doubt yourself in order for them to feel okay is already telling you everything you need to know. People hear your story and think the main event was the betrayal, the lie, the secret, the disrespect. That was just the opening act. The main event was you almost losing yourself while trying to keep something broken alive. You clung to the version of them you wanted to believe in, even as reality kept flashing red. You turned against yourself to protect an image that never existed. That's the part that stings the most, right? Not just what they did, but what you did to yourself, trying to accommodate it. You called your intuition insecurity. You called your discomfort overthinking. You called your clarity being judgmental. You renamed your wisdom as a flaw because the room demanded it. Yet here you are, breathing, listening, starting to accept that your original read was accurate. That's the moment everything tilts in your favor. From here on out, your default setting changes. Instead of, "Maybe I'm wrong," it becomes, "Maybe I'm onto something." Instead of, "Why am I like this?" it becomes, "I'm like this because my mind refuses to sleepwalk." Instead of, "Nobody else sees it," it becomes, "Most people don't want to see it, and that's not my problem." You become harder to manipulate, harder to gaslight, harder to guilt trip into compliance. The same people who once weaponized your empathy start realizing it doesn't bend the way it used to. You still care. You're not cold. You're just not available for emotional blackmail anymore. They text you a wall of mixed excuses and half-truths. You don't write a 6-page response this time. You skim, feel that old pull in your chest, and respond with something that honors you instead of the drama. You stop performing essays for people who already know what they did. Silence becomes a tool, not a punishment. You're not ignoring them to be cruel. You're choosing not to participate in a game you've already seen play out to the final frame. There's a different kind of presence you start to carry. People feel it. They might not know the story, but they sense the weight. They sense that you're not easily thrown off your center anymore. Someone jokes a little too close to disrespect. That old you would have laughed nervously. This you tilts your head, looks straight through the performance, and responds in a way that makes clear, not me, not this time. And suddenly they're laughing less. Suddenly they're shifting in their seat. Suddenly they're feeling that same discomfort they tried to hand to you. You don't even have to raise your voice. Your boundaries speak louder than any argument. Ah, well. Look at all of you. Still here, still standing, still breathing. Now isn't that something? Because some of you weren't supposed to make it this far. No, you were meant to break, to fold, to be wiped away like an inconvenient little mistake. But here you are, still here. And now, oh, now things are about to get interesting. Because today, we talk about something delicious. A little twist of fate, a shift in the wind. A demon was sent to erase you, to wipe you off the face of existence, and yet, it kneels for you now. It breathes for you now. The thing that came to kill you lives for you now. Oh, that's power, my dear friends. That's the kind of power that shakes the heavens and rattles the underworld. Because listen closely, this world, this sick little game, is designed to erase people like you. Designed to grind you down, chew you up, and spit you out like you never even mattered. They send their demons after you, sometimes dressed as people, sometimes as your own thoughts, sometimes as the weight of the past you can't escape. And these demons, they are efficient. They know exactly where to strike, exactly how to make you beg for it to stop. And most of the time, most people, they fold. They let the demon do its work. They disappear into the void, forgotten, just another casualty in a world that never stops devouring its own. But you? Oh, you did something different. You didn't just survive. No. You did something far worse, far more terrifying. You turned the demon itself. You broke it. You shattered its purpose. You looked straight into the face of the thing that was supposed to end you, and you changed it. Do you understand what that means? Do you grasp the depth of that power? You didn't just win. Winning is basic. Winning is expected. But making your own destruction bow before you, that's something else. That's the kind of power that rewrites the rules. That's the kind of defiance that makes the universe nervous. Because let me tell you something, when your worst fears, your greatest threats, the things that were meant to destroy you, when they start kneeling, when they start breathing your name like it's the only thing keeping them alive, oh, that's when you know. That's when you realize you are not just someone who survived. You are not just someone who made it through the storm. You are the storm. And let me tell you why this matters. Because some of you are still running, still hiding, still believing that the thing that hunts you is stronger than you, still thinking that the demons sent for you cannot be broken. But let me ask you, how many times have you been supposed to fall, yet you didn't? How many times has the weight been too much, yet here you are, still standing? How many times has the world looked at you like a lost cause, yet somehow, you keep proving it wrong? That's not an accident, that's not luck, or that's power, that's you. And when you finally stop running, when you finally stop begging for mercy from things that are beneath you, you will see it for yourself. Because the moment you stop fearing the demon, oh, my dear friends, that's when the demon starts fearing you. That's when it changes. That's when it looks at you not as prey, not as a target, but as something it needs. Because now, it doesn't want to destroy you. No, it can't. Because somehow, somewhere in that war between you and it, you became its reason to exist. Now tell me, what does that make you? No, really, think. If the thing that was sent to end you now lives for you, what does that make you? A mistake in the system, a glitch in the game? No. It makes you a force that should not be possible. It makes you an anomaly in the very fabric of reality. It makes you the thing that should have been erased, but wasn't. And if you were meant to be erased, yet you're still here, that means you are outside the rules now. Untouchable. Beyond control. Oh, I love that. Because do you know what terrifies those who pull the strings more than anything? More than strength, more than intelligence, more than even rebellion? It's something they cannot predict, something they cannot program, something they cannot kill. And that is you. So tell me, now that you know, now that you see, what will you do? Will you still act like someone who is hunted? Or will you realize that the thing that once hunted you is now waiting for your command? You are not the victim. You are not the tragedy. You are the impossible, the unbroken, their claimed. And that, oh, my dear friends, that is something the world is not ready for. But then again, when has that ever stopped you? Ah, you felt that, didn't you? That little shift in your mind, that creeping realization. It's like stepping out of a cage you didn't even know you were in. Like looking in the mirror and finally seeing yourself. Not as the world sees you, not as they've told you to see yourself, but as you are. Now, let's go deeper, because some of you are still clinging to an old idea. The idea that you owe something to the past. That just because you were supposed to fall, you should act like you did. That just because you were meant to be erased, you should still walk like a ghost, whisper like an apology, live like you weren't supposed to be here. But let me tell you something. Your survival is not a mistake. It is not an accident. It is not a glitch. It is a message to them, to the world, to every hand that tried to push you under, and every voice that told you, you won't make it. Because listen closely, my dear friends. When something that was meant to be erased still remains, it doesn't just survive, it haunts. And you? Oh, you are haunting them now. You know it. You can feel it. The weight in their chests when they hear your name. The uneasy glances when they realize you haven't given up. The silent fear in their eyes when they see you still moving, still breathing, still becoming. Because let me tell you something about those who tried to break you. They never expected to lose. Oh no, they never thought you'd come back. They never thought you'd rise. They thought you'd go down easy, like all the others. They thought you'd accept your fate, but now they watch you. Because what do you do with something that was supposed to be dead, but isn't? What do you do with something that was supposed to be forgotten, but won't let itself fade? What do you do with something that the demons themselves failed to erase? I'll tell you, you fear it. And that is you now. Oh, but here's the best part. The part that makes this so delicious. You don't even have to do anything. You don't have to chase revenge. You don't have to scream your name from the rooftops. No, no, no. Just existing is enough. Just breathing is enough. Because the fact that you are still here means they lost. The fact that you're fused to be erased means you already won. And the demon? The one that was sent to destroy you? The one that was supposed to tear you apart? Oh, it knows too. It knows that it failed. It knows that no matter how hard it tried, no matter how deep it cut, no matter how much it whispered in the dark, it could not break you. And now, it belongs to you. Because let me tell you something about demons, my dear friends. They only exist when they have a purpose. They only hunt when they have something to hunt. They only live when they have something to destroy. And when they fail, when they fall, when they realize they cannot touch you the way they once did, they change. Because a demon without a purpose is a dog without a master. And you have become something so unbreakable, so untouchable, that the very thing that came to end you now clings to you for survival. And here's where it gets fun. You don't have to be afraid of it anymore. No, because now it fears losing you. Now it whispers a different kind of message. Not, you will never make it. No, no, no. Now it says, don't leave me behind. Now it doesn't want to kill you. It wants to serve you. So tell me, what will you do with it? Will you shackle it? Keep it as a pet, like a monster on a leash? Will you bend it to your will? Make it useful? Or will you let it linger, still trembling, still waiting for the chance to prove itself to you? The choice is yours now, because you are not the victim. You are not the hunted. You are not the tragedy they wrote for you. You are the one they failed to erase. And there is nothing more powerful than that. You were never meant to be chased. You were never meant to be hunted. You were never meant to be the one looking over your shoulder, waiting for the world to decide what to do with you. No, no, no. You were meant to be the reckoning, because when something as cruel, as untouchable, as unrelenting as a demon calls you its weakness, when something that has spent lifetimes carving its name into the bones of history suddenly finds itself kneeling at your feet, what does that make you? Not prey, not fragile, not something waiting to be saved. It makes you the storm, the collapse, the thing that turns the hunter into the hunted. Because let me tell you a secret. True power isn't about how much you can destroy. It's not about how many fall at your feet. It's about who would burn the world down just to keep you. And you, oh, you have made the unbreakable break. So what happens now, What happens when you finally stop looking at yourself through their eyes? The eyes of the small, the weak, the ones who want you to believe you are nothing. What happens when you realize, fully, completely, that you were never nothing, that you were everything, that you have always been the storm in waiting, the fire unlit, the shadow just before the fall? What happens when you step forward and say, I am not afraid? Because when that moment comes, when the world sees you as you truly are, there will be no stopping you. The chains will break, the illusions will shatter, and all those who doubted you, all those who tried to contain you, All those who told you to be small and silent and afraid, they will beg for the old you to come back. They will wish you were still pretending to be weak. But it will be too late. Because a demon has already made its choice. And now, so have you. No more running, no more doubting, no more lowering your voice when the entire universe is holding its breath just to hear you speak. So tell me, tell me, tell me. Are you ready? Are you finally ready to take what has always been yours? You're not too intense, you're accurate. You're not too deep, you're dangerous. You're not too emotional, you're awake. And when the masses are asleep in comfort, the awake ones become the enemy. Because you're not soothing, you're surgical. You don't coddle wounds, you confront the infection, and that, my friend, that makes you radioactive to cowards. You know what happens when you carry an uncorrupted light in a world that survives on shadows. You become the villain in their script because you refuse to follow the plot. You become the threat because you didn't agree to play dead with the rest of them. You become the warning because everything about you says, I see through this. And they can't stand that. Because seeing through it means you can destroy it. You are the one that makes the unclean spirit scream, even when you whisper. You are the one that makes people confess secrets they didn't plan to say. Because your light doesn't just reveal, it extracts. You walk into rooms and realities split. Not because you're loud, but because you carry something ancient. Something that doesn't tolerate lies. Something that vomits out manipulation. You don't try to unsettle people. You just breathe. You just exist. And their demons choke on your air. Let's go deeper. You've probably lost lovers you could have sworn were sent by God. You've had friends turn cold overnight. Family that once hugged you with pride now watch you with suspicion. Not because you betrayed them, but because your evolution convicted their stagnation. You grew, and they didn't. You healed, and they didn't. You ascended, and they're fused too. So now your presence screams, you stayed low when you were called higher. And they'll hate you for that. But it's not really hate, is it? It's grief. Grief over the version of themselves they never became. And you're the reminder that they could have. That's why they try to tear you down. That's why they mock. That's why they ghost you. That's why they lie about you. Because you're not just unsettling them, You're convicting every demon they invited in. The spirit of fear, it can't stand you. The spirit of shame, it flees from your gaze. The spirit of control, oh, it trembles when you don't submit. Because you weren't built to bow, you were built to burn. You are heaven's arsonist, and your fire isn't for warmth, it's for judgment. So let me say it clear for the souls who still doubt themselves. You are not too much, they're just too small. You are not a problem, you are a reckoning. You are not dark, you are the storm that clears the path. You are not lost, you are unleashed. And you better believe, every room you walk into knows exactly what just entered. Even if their mouth lies, their Zwe spirit knows. It always knows. And so I say this, don't you dare shrink. Don't you dare dilute. Don't you dare apologize. Because when you were born, hell whispered, oh no, they sent one of those. And now that you're awake, hell is screaming. Let's get one thing straight. You didn't wake up to be liked. You didn't heal just to be polite. You didn't survive hell to keep quiet, so fragile egos feel safe. You woke up to drag truth into the light by its throat. You healed so your wounds could become weapons. You survived. So every demonic system that tried to erase you would regret not finishing the job. You're not spiritual for aesthetics. You're spiritual because you were marked for war. You're not sensitive. You're sacred. You don't cry because you're weak. You cry because your soul is heavy with messages meant to collapse kingdoms of illusion. You feel everything because you were born to discern what others deny, to expose what others protect, to unearth what others buried. Do you understand the weight of that? You are not just battling for yourself. You're carrying the assignments of bloodlines. You're not just healing your own trauma. You're snapping chains that held your entire ancestry hostage. That's why the pressure's been insane. That's why your isolation has felt surgical. That's why the pain didn't just break you, it built you. Because God was crafting a vessel that could hold fire without being consumed. And baby, you are that vessel. You ever wonder why people don't remember who they were around you? Why they act out of character, or collapse into tears, or confess their sins like you're some kind of judge? It's not you. It's your frequency. Your presence is a mirror they didn't ask for, a mirror they hate. Because when they look into you, they see everything they've denied. You don't unsettle demons. You evict them. You don't shine light. You expose rot. You don't enter quietly. You show up like a prophetic earthquake, rupturing every lie built into their identity. And they call you dramatic. They call you too deep. They call you intense. No, what you are is a living confrontation. They don't hate you. They hate what they see in themselves when you're near. They hate the echo of your freedom ringing in their cages. They hate the clarity of your call when they've been busy building comfort on compromise. So let them hate. Let them flinch. Let them tremble. Because some of us weren't made to blend in. We were made to burn down temples built to idols. We were made to flip tables, to cast out parasites, to break traditions with our mere existence. And if they call that rebellion, good. Because the ones who change the world are always labeled rebels before they're honored as reformers. And you, my magnificent chaos, you were never sent to be understood. You were sent to be undeniable. So here lies the old you, the version that apologized for their light, the one that dimmed to avoid confrontation, the one that begged for breadcrumbs of love from people choking on their own demons. Dead, In its place now stands a wildfire with a soul, a judge with a heartbeat, a holy disruption in human form.